Humans have been around for a pretty long time. In the span of a couple 100,000 years, we went from communicating in grunts, living in damp, disgusting caves, and wiping with a leaf, to making lively and prosperous societies built off nothing but the hard work of its citizens. And then every single one of these societies eventually collapsed, leaving nothing more than ruins that now serve as a tourist attraction. Which I guess brings us to the modern day. Living right now definitely has its negatives. I mean, global tensions are on the rise, everything's getting more expensive, my favorite show just got removed on Netflix, my IHOP delivery arrived cold, my AirPods are dead. Yeah, no, this is the most comfortable humans have ever been. Like, bro, there was actually a time where humans didn't even have clothes. Can you imagine describing Nike sweatpants to a caveman? It would probably be as revolutionary as the discovery of fire or the invention of the wheel. Being alive during this time period must have been so garbage, the only thing that you could do was survive. For starters, pretty much everything during this time is actively trying to eat you. Not only did you have to hunt for your own food, you were actively being hunted as food. Unlike we are today, way back then, humans weren't at the top of the food chain. You had to worry about all these different types of animals like dire wolves, saber-toothed tigers, the short-faced bear, which is in history one of the largest bears ever to exist. They stood at 12 feet tall and could weigh up to 2,000 pounds. These bears could make Shaquille O'Neal look like a Funko Pop. Every single one of these animals were significantly larger, stronger, and faster than humans. I can barely even make it to my bus stop in time. There is no chance in the universe I can outrun a saber-toothed tiger. The chances of you being able to outrun one of these prehistoric beasts is extremely slim, which leaves you with two other options. A, close your eyes, accept your fate, get on your knees, and pray to whatever possible higher power you believe in. Or B, you can fight back. Which, in that scenario, you're probably still f***ed, considering your best possible weapon is gonna be a rock tied to a stick. Do you honestly think that this can overpower this? Yeah, dude, maybe if it has a fucking bomb attached to the end of it. Diseases, malnutrition, random accidents were also extremely common during this time, which probably contributed to the extremely long lifespan of 25 to 30 years old. 25 to 30 years? Man, what the f? You're telling me I'm going through all of these different diseases, famines, getting hunted by animals 3 times my size, and I may not live long enough to see my own hairline start receding? And yet, despite all that, you were still considered lucky if you made it past even 5 years old. Before you could even possibly comprehend what time period you're existing in, you were already being spawn camped. Humans had one single objective. For the sake of the plot, do not go extinct. Come on, you can't go extinct. Otherwise, me and my friends can't play Civilization 6 all day. However, this was almost the case. Humans almost completely got wiped off the face of the earth. A short while back, 74,000 years ago, humans experienced the Mount Toba super eruption, which is considered one of the largest eruptions in the past 2 million years. This resulted in a huge collapse of the ecosystem, a large population decline, and although this next point is still debated, it's considered a huge step back for the evolution of humans. It's because of all these different factors that pretty much caused humans to rapidly adapt to what was going on around them. People had it so bad back in the day, man. All they had was their human spirit and some fatal bacterial infection. I know I already said it, but this is probably one of the most comfortable times to be a human. Imagine if you approached a peasant from the 1400s and told them that sometime in the future they'd be able to order an overpriced Chipotle burrito without even leaving their bed from the comfort of their own home. I bet they'd be in shock. Septic shock, because they were catching every single disease known to man. I'm sorry, living in the medieval times has got to be one of the worst possible spawns you could ever get.
Oh, pish posh, but they're wearing funny outfits. How could it possibly be
Literally
bad?
everything about being born within this time period is terrible. To start, if you thought that people who lived during the prehistoric caveman era must have smelled bad, well, holy shit, at least they would bathe themselves. People in the Middle Ages must have smelled so bad because they just wouldn't keep themselves clean. Can you imagine the aroma of a town from the medieval times and what it must have smelled like? I bet you could have probably smelled the entire population of 200 people from a mile away. Also, people during this time period lived a bit longer than 25 years old. So if you had the misfortune of encountering an old man from the Middle Ages, chances are he doesn't smell like rose petals or Febreze because he's been marinating in his own filth for the past 3 decades. Also, it's not like they didn't have access to a body of water like a river to wash up in, because they absolutely did. People people back then instead would actively go out of their way to avoid bathing because they thought that the water would open up your pores, which would then put yourself at risk for diseases. Which, ironically, that just did the complete fucking opposite. I think the most famous example would be the Black Plague, which took place during the mid-1300s. 30 to 60% of Europe alone was wiped off the map. It's said that this disease was not only spread by humans, but also by other rats, because apparently both were equally as disgusting. What if all of humanity just ended up getting wiped out because nobody was smart enough to invent a mousetrap? Diseases and illnesses just seem to be a fact of life, partially due to how low hygienic standards were, but also because modern medicine just didn't exist. Some townsfolk and doctors genuinely believed that one of the cures to the Black Plague was cutting onions. You know what, man? I mean, sure. I'd understand if it was the crazy old Merlin wizard living down the street, but these were actual medical professionals at the time. I am so happy we live in a time period where if I have a medical problem, I can go to an actual trained doctor instead of some random guy whose only credential is he knows how to use a hacksaw. For some reason, the solution for any medical issue would either make absolutely no sense or you'd be in excruciating pain, or it could be both. But people didn't care if you were in pain. No. Have you seen some of their torture methods? They are the most disturbing things humanity has ever conceived. If you want to actually physically feel pain without actually feeling it, all you have to do is search up medieval torture methods on Google. Hey, at least shock sites weren't a thing at this time, so your misfortune wasn't being broadcasted to millions of people. No, instead, most of the time, they would just do it in the town square in front of everybody. Aw, the royal family's having a bad day.
Send him to the guillotine.
I bet even if you were the highest level of royalty, everyone is bowing down to you. Well, then your life would probably still be considered garbage compared with today's standards. You know, it also probably didn't help that your uncle was your dad and your sister was your mom, which definitely does do some explaining on why paintings of higher royal figures all looked so... ugh. Imagine living a terrible life in the Middle Ages, and just as you're about to reach old age retirement, you get a letter advising you that you're going to be sent to the nearest dungeon just because you farted in front of the royal king. This guy. The Middle Ages is recognized as taking place between the years 500 and 1500, which basically means you just had to pray you were not born within the span of 1,000 years. But hey, I mean, at least they knew how to dress and wear good outfits. These people in the Middle Ages were constantly dropping like flies, whether it was unnecessarily becoming a victim of some torture chamber from the depths of hell, getting some disease that rots every orifice of your body, or just random battles. See, as history went on, medical knowledge advanced. Taking a shower became common practice, provided you're not a Discord mod. However, one thing never seemed to change: human disagreements. Throughout history, if political figures have ever disagreed on something, they've always taken the best course of action, which is sit down and talk like mature adults, eventually coming to a compromise and settling their differences in peace and prosperity. Yeah, no, of course not. Instead, they send a letter to their citizens demanding that they go fight for their lives on their behalf. Hey man, maybe I'm just a little pretty princess who doesn't like getting dirty, but there is no way in hell I would survive in any capacity during the early 1900s. If I was living during this time and I got a letter in the mail informing me that I'd be required to sign up for the military and get sent to France, yeah bro, I am not doing that. Alright, let me put myself in their shoes. Y'all genuinely think me, the person who's been working the coal mine since 12 years old and thinks that stale bread and water is a delicacy meal, you seriously think that's who's gonna go off and fight your battle to defend your ego? Yeah, man. If you didn't go through with getting drafted during this time, they would just send you to prison. Bro, I would still take the prison sentence. But let's say for some reason the prisons are full and you end up getting sent to battle. You see some of the most gruesome, disturbing things known to human history. You go from seeing people explode like a watermelon with rubber bands, sleeping in muddy trenches with rats, but finally, you get home. You are a national hero. And then you were immediately met with the Great Depression. Man, it isn't called this for no reason. Look at any single image from this era, and it's just gonna make you feel sad. The Great Depression was a period of time where the entire economic structure essentially just went in the toilet. The reason that this happened is the geopolitical economic state of the quantum mechanics. Yeah, man, I'm gonna be so real. I don't know anything about the political and economic state of the world during this time. I'm not educated enough to talk about this. What I do know is that being alive during this time must have been so boring. I know I sound like such a screenager, but come on, man, there wasn't even TV during this time. What was there to do? Listen to your local radio show all while drinking mop water disguised as food from the soup kitchen? Are we serious? You're forced to consume this garbage meal and you don't even have YouTube to entertain yourself while munching it down? Are we serious?
Well, actually, literature was quite prevalent during this time, so when you really think
Okay, but that doesn't give me the same dopamine hit as eating Little Debbie snack cakes and scrolling on my phone.
I know all I do is bitch and complain on this channel, but it's pretty cool that we live in a time where, you know, I have the ability to walk to the store and buy myself a pint of blueberries, even if they're crazy overpriced.
My girlfriend is currently studying anthropology in university, which is basically the study of humans throughout history, so she was a huge help for the entirety of this video. So if I sounded more like I was filled with inner wisdom and like I knew what I was talking about, it's full credit to her. Anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow my Twitter, my Twitch, and my Instagram, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.
Well, you suck. Hey, you wanna talk about sex, but we're not allowed. Hey. Well, you may not like it, but you better learn how, cause it's your turn now. Boy, you're wasting your tongue with all your lame excuses and lies.